Hey guys, I am John Carrick, author of Legacy of a Mad Scientist and The Legend of Ashley Fox. Today we're here looking at Conan the Barbarian number 137, which is the next one I have in the stack. And the Nine of Wands, the Pumpkin-Headed Nightmare. He's just called Pumpkinhead here. One of the first professional stories that I ever wrote when I was interning for a script writing studio out here in LA, Numenorian Films. Couple of douchebag guys, but whatever. I wrote a story called The Pumpkin-Headed Nightmare. They were working on a series called Immortal back then, which was based on Solomon Kane, and they did not know that Marvel Comics owned the rights to Solomon Kane, that he was called the Puritan. And I brought them a bunch of Marvel Comics and showed them the stories. And they went on, they changed the storyline, made it Lorenzo Lamas. I never stayed with them. They were, like I said, they were kind of douchebags, but one of the first stories I wrote for them was called The Pumpkin-Headed Nightmare. It was an 80-page script. I wrote it over a weekend. And when I brought that in, it melted them down. I had been in the Marine Corps. These guys had been fat stockbrokers. So they looked at me with a mixture of awe and, how would I phrase this? Envy and mistrust, I suppose. That's not really the right word, but they, like I said, they were douchebags. And they were not cut out for, you can see they've only made like 3 films. I haven't made any, but their movies suck. My stories are awesome. They were not cut out for what they were doing. You got to be the real deal to really do shit right out here in LA. And if you're not, if you don't have Conan's character, you shouldn't be writing Conan. Now, though I say that, I'm about to contradict myself over Harry Potter because I wrote a story about a girl and J.K. Rowling wrote a story about a boy. So you don't have to be Conan to write Conan, but you have to understand the character to write it convincingly. Obviously, Roy Thomas was not a female, but he wrote Bellet and Red Sonja convincingly. Today's story is called The Titan's Gambit. It's a pretty good one. This is not John Buscema anymore. This is Bruce Jones writing, Alfredo Alcala on pencils, and George Roussos on colors, Janice Chiang on letters. She is still lettering comics to this day, Janice Chiang. Hey guys, so the first few minutes after I showed off all the creators' names, the video got blurry, so we're going to do this over again. So this giant guy right here is Bolo. He reminds me of Sammo Hung, the Chinese martial artist in all the movies. He was in the Peking Opera School with Jackie Chan and a bunch of other famous guys. I believe Bolo Young also attended the Peking Opera School, but I'm not sure. This guy's named Bolo, but he looks like Sammo Hung. Sammo Hung is the big fat guy in Enter the Dragon. Bolo Young was the monster, the huge muscles. Sammo Hung, maybe he wasn't even in Enter the Dragon. I'm not sure. I know Jackie Chan was, only for one little bit. But anyhow, this guy is Bolo, and he is a giant kind of retard. You know, it's funny because in yesterday's CG streams, we were talking, the chat and the I think Ethan and a couple other people were talking about Dostoevsky's The Idiot. In that novel, the main characters, the bad guys, gaslight a retarded guy into believing that a political opponent is evil, and he murders him. It's one of the first cases of MK Ultra sort of retarded assassin syndrome. And that's a lot of what's going on in America today. We have a lot of retarded assassins who are put up against white people. They've been brainwashed to think that all white people are evil. The race thing comes up a lot on this channel because it's facing us in reality a lot right now. It's facing me in reality a lot. I see it in fiction especially, but also in everyday life. And white advocacy is considered evil. White people grouping together to advocate for their own interests is seen as evil by other white people and, of course, minorities. But all minorities are expected to and encouraged to group up together against white people and advocate for their own interests. I don't agree with that. I think white Christian nation would be flooded with people who want to live there and not live in these polyglot, Tower of Babel societies. I certainly don't want to. I'm sick of hearing people with English as a second language. I don't want to talk to them. They have nothing for me. And that's a terrible thing to say, but it's the truth. Anyhow, that's not what I wanted to start with, but that's where we're at. This white guy, is being exploited by an Arabian and a dwarf. We all know that dwarves have no souls. They were created by Hades before God created man. The Jews are the descendants of the dwarves. The Jews have no souls. This guy, this retarded giant, is being exploited by this little dwarf who is basically sold him into gladiator tournaments. It's like the WWE, only people die. It's like Conan in the movie, he's a gladiator. And what this guy has over him, now the 60s and 70s in America were intoxicated with MK Ultra and mind control stories and mesmerism and hypnotism and getting people to do things outside of their will. That's why I talked about the devil's breath the other day, because that drug is so powerful. And this is the same sort of thing, only this guy is controlled by a tune. His parents were murdered as a child. This is a story about how his parents were murdered as a child. And the music was playing as it happened. And now when he hears this music, it reminds him of the rage that he felt as a child when his parents were murdered. And he can fight anybody. He's sort of like the Baby Huey character, a giant retard. When you get him mad, they just destroy everything. And that's what happens here. He has the power to murder this bear once the tune is played for this Arabian. The bear tries to kill him, but he's so mad. He looks a lot like Butterbean, too. And Alfredo Alcala does not skimp on the blood. Look at this bear's face. He's spit up blood. And that's the inks. Alfredo Alcala did the inks, too. So that's right there in on the original page. The little dwarf is being paid because this guy killed their champion. So, yeah. All right. Now we get Conan at the bar with his friends, entertaining a couple beautiful girls, while these guys are having a bit of a fight. And, like bar fights usually go. These guys actually are not enemies. They are a group of friends. They are a gang of, like the WWE, they are traveling wrestlers. This big dude kicks one in the mouth. Conan says that cost him some teeth. These guys throw him through Conan's table, spill his beer, although he calls it ale. I will say this for, was it Bruce Jones who's writing this? He does lean into vocabulary, if not a good plot. He does adapt the right vocabulary. He tries it a little hard. It's a little over the top, which might be rushed or it might just be inexperience. But I do not think this got 3 passes, let alone 5. I think some of these comics get a single pass. I didn't see any spelling errors, and on a conflicted card today we have 2, and it's only like 2 sentences, so they definitely have some low intelligent non-whites working over there. Although white people can do spelling errors too. I'm just blaming I'm leaning into the race war. I'm leaning into the idea that if we had a white civilization, we'd have no problems. A white Christian nation has no problems. The only problems they have are on their borders. And that's what we're facing now. We're facing problems inside our borders. So here, while Conan is threatening this guy, he gets blasted in the back of the head and takes out everyone. Beats the shit out of everyone. Which is awesome. And we get a lot of weird exposition like, you're standing on my leg. Oh, I'm hurt. Blah, blah, blah. There's like weird little lines in there that don't really need to be there. This guy is the manager for this, basically a wrestling troupe. This is like the WWE or the WWF on tour, going to each village. And this guy, his job is to bring these soldiers to the main court to fight Bolo. That's how the king collects taxes. If you win, you get everything in the treasury, but if you lose, you have to pay 100 grand. So now that Conan's beat all these guys, this guy explains to him that he has to be his champion and that he can win all the treasure. In reality, that's not the truth. In reality, this is how the taxes are paid, and Conan is being volunteered. He's being shanghaied to go and die for this village's taxes. That's what's really happening. Also, this guy is telling Conan about the statue of Monica, a golden, life-size golden statue of a woman that the king keeps in his treasure vault behind, they say it's a barred door, but that looks like a wooden door to me. Might have a barred deadbolt, but it's directly behind the king's throne, and no one's ever allowed to see the statue. If you even peek through the keyhole, the guards will murder you. That is a bunch of blood out from the under the bottom of that corpse. I assume Alfredo Alcala is doing his own inks. George Russos is only credited as colorist, so there would have been no way to take that out for the editors. Inside the throne room, Monica is indeed life-size. Conan is interested. He agrees to go along because otherwise we don't have a story. We get a montage of, because he can't go straight, excuse me, I got the hiccups now. So Conan can't go straight to the royal court. He has to visit all the other villages first and defeat their champions. And he does. In some pretty elaborate ways, or illustrative ways. I love this tree bent over the panel. This is just a traveling panel, and look at that. That panel right there, just this one panel, that could be right out of Wally Wood's 22 panel. What do we do for this one? I got to put something in there. Oh, put them in there traveling. And they arrive. This is the prince. That is the door to his vault. He is the one, he's sitting on his throne right before the door. That's the door. Conan has to fight Bolo, this giant guy, who in the narration up here is described as super sweet and friendly and nice. Then Twillo starts playing the song that reminds him of his murdered parents, and Conan has to fight him. Conan knocks him into Twillo, and the reed recorder is broken. The little Jew now has no way to control and manipulate his much more powerful white slave. Conan knocks him out. They command the rest of the court musicians to play the tune, and they do. So Bolo's rage returns immediately. He throws Conan into the prince or wazir's chair. Then he lifts it. Now, so Conan has been moved from this location. He runs over, and it's supposed to be a marble chair. That's actually wood. That's heavy wood. Smashes it through the door, where he can now see, Bolo sees the statue of his mother, and now he knows who did this to him. The prince, this little dwarf Twillo. These are the people who murdered his parents and kidnapped him from his home. And he remembers Twillo was playing this song when it happened. And he goes mad. And Conan, is right there with him. So Bolo rescues the statue of his mother and grabs Twillo and smashes him, kills him on this splintered piece of table leg, just like Wolverine in the recent movie. And then the prince sends his guards after them, but Bolo lifts up the statue of his mother. So Conan faces the guards, while Bolo chases after the prince, the fleeing prince. So Bolo goes after the prince as he flees the throne room, throws the statue of his mother at him, crushes his head against a stone wall, while Conan and these other guys are facing the guards. Bolo comes back to the throne room, rips down a column, and Conan and this other guy say, "You're not strong enough to carry that." So Conan's like, "Well, let's help him." He drives the column, this giant pillar, into these soldiers up against the back wall of the vault and smashes the stone wall of the vault out. Mike Tyson once punched a brick out of a wall. And all the jewels and all the gold gets dumped back to the people. And here's the statue. Conan delivers the statue to Bull. It's not quite a full-size, woman. It's about half size. And Conan walks off, and that's the end of the issue. All is well that ends well. This is a single issue. You do not have to have 6 issues. I've been thinking about what I need to do. If I'm not funny enough to do Calvin and Hobbes, I need to do something sort of action-based. And I've got an idea for it. And now I need to make it funny. I don't want to do Archer, but I've got an idea. And that's it. This Dungeons and Dragons is an ongoing one-page comic, apparently. It's just not drawn very well. G.I. Joe. Conan, 137. Hey guys, I am John Carrick, author of Legacy of a Mad Scientist and The Legend of Ashley Fox. And these books are fucking awesome. They're so good. I was talking about Harry Potter earlier and about how J.K. Rowling wrote about a boy. Nobody had any problems with that, so the idea that I'm out here writing about a girl does not make me a faggot or a fucking transgender or some stupid shit like that. This is a fucking awesome story. This is Conan if Conan had a daughter. What would Conan's daughter be like? Probably like Bellet. And what would the guys around her be like? How would they react? So, as much as J.K. Rowling can write a story about a wizard, I can write a story about a kung fu prodigy. Today we were looking at Conan 139 or 137. 137. It's a good story. It's very rare to get these single issue pocket stories in comics now. You used to get this a lot in television. You used to get, the A-Team, what is that? Rockford Files, Simon and Simon, Dukes of Hazzard, Magnum P.I. None of those stories were to be continued. I've been watching Miami Vice. I think when you get a story that lasted 2 episodes, that was rare. That was rare because people hated that shit. Because people never got home on time. People never had VCRs. If you missed a TV show, you missed it. There was no seeing it again. If you didn't watch it when it was on, there was no VHS, especially TV shows. It was a long time before TVs got transferred to VHS and then DVD. You guys have no idea what... I remember when I first started, when I got out of animation school in 2000, the idea of on-demand programming was such a wet dream for everyone. To be able to stream video over the internet was what everyone wanted. And now we have it and no one cares. Now we have it and it's not important anymore. Now we have it and it has reduced information to, well, I don't want to say propaganda, but it's definitely had an impact. The fiction that you're getting now is not like what Disney did. In the old days, Disney didn't even work on story. They just adapted fairy tales that had been accepted stories for thousands of years, So we're in a strange time where truth is in the eye of the beholder on some level, and one person's truth is another person's lie. So, you can't say this stuff doesn't matter. It has an effect. Oh, today's, it's Pumpkinhead. We had Pumpkinhead. This is very personal to me. It was a cool story, too. It was a story about a young family traveling, driving home from Grandma's house after Sunday dinner. And there's a terrible rainstorm. They're up in the mountains, and the child is in the back seat. The daughter is in the back seat having a nightmare. And while she's having a nightmare, the car gets struck by lightning, and her father gets transformed into, the car flips and rolls off the road, and the father gets transformed into a pumpkin-headed nightmare. That's the nightmare his daughter was having. And he's only able to save her and get her out of the car, like with Hulk strength, So he's got this pumpkin-headed nightmare strength. And then he gets chased around by the cops and whatever for like a couple days. I don't even remember how it ends, but he was the problem. And then, they had to solve it by figuring out how to turn him back or let him die. And I have no idea how it's solved. But it was good. It was fun to write. And this one, Conflicted Deck 3, this is interesting. This one has 2 spelling errors. Simone has lost a loved one with a D. And in the midst, M-I-D-S-T, it's not the mist of confusion, it's the midst of confusion, the middle of confusion. She is contemplating ending it all. I'm not going to say the S word because I noticed that gets channels big gray warning. This episode talks about the S word, the self-deletion word, and I have no interest in that. But she is thinking about it, and what would you say to someone contemplating that at the end of the world? There's not a lot you can say. I've been, not recently, but I've had hard times where I've, not seriously thought about it, but thought it would be easier, thought it would be simpler, thought that it would be more embarrassing, but somehow less embarrassing. I don't know. It's easy to be hopeless. Sometimes finding hope for the future is not an easy thing. Right now, I'm relaxed into the idea that the knowledge that I've already won. I've done the work that I need to do. There's still more work to do, sure, but I've become who I've fought the good fight. I'm able to come out here and do this to you guys because I am what's it called? I don't have a word for this. Fulfilled, satisfied, accomplished. There's always more to do. But at least now I know that I'm the person who can accomplish everything that I want to do. I mean, I want to have an animation and game studio. That might not come about right away. It might take a long time. I've gone about it in a very circulatory sort of way. Technology's getting cheaper. The ideas are becoming more important. The story that you want to tell is becoming more important. So, what you want to say, chicken soup for the soul, is really going to be what sells tomorrow. And for me personally, in my humble experience, I can come out here and tell you guys with, authority is the right word. You can accomplish whatever you set your mind to. Whatever you're afraid of. Now look, if you're afraid of heights, you don't need to go into rocket, what is that called? Like the wing gliding, where you wear the wingsuits. You don't have to do that. You don't even have to go up to the top of a building. But just know that that's what you're afraid of, and that at some point you should try and challenge it, You don't have to, if you're afraid of spiders, I'm not saying climb into a tank full of spiders. Don't be stupid. But lean into what you're afraid of. Get to a point where you can confront that. If there's something that you want in your life and there's an obstacle that you're afraid of tackling, go after it. Go after it. Because even if you don't win the thing, even if you don't become Todd McFarlane, you will become better at whatever it is you want to do. For me, it's drawing, right? I'm never going to become Todd McFarlane. I'm never going to be that fast. I'm never going to be able to go back in time and be a 20-year-old working for Marvel. That's not going to happen. But what I can do is improve from my present situation. I'm not competing with Todd. I'm competing with me from yesterday. And I can always beat that guy. I can always beat that guy because I have the benefit of something he didn't have. I have an extra 24 hours. Yesterday me only had so many years and yesterday. Today I've got a whole extra day to try and top that. So every day you should be doing something to make your life better. Even if it's just meditating, even if it's just clearing your head for tomorrow, figuring out what you need to do. I don't know that I'm really saying anything except hang in there and tomorrow will be better. Your next breath will be better. Your next idea will be better. Everything improves. It's the only way the world grows. Everything has to improve. That is the life force, is you're driven to improve your circumstances and life for the people around you. That's everybody's goal. Everyone wants to contribute to make the world a better place. Help them. When I talk about racism and shit, that doesn't come out in petty, vindictive slights against strangers. I don't do that. the way that people see that from me is when I'm confronted with something where someone tells me that I owe them something because of X, what my ancestors did. That's where it becomes nonsense. And those people doing that are doing that through their own fear because they think they're not capable of accomplishing what they want. So therefore they have to go demand it from others. This is sort of like, I believe it was Robert F. Skinner, a psychologist, who said people who can't control their own emotions seek to control other people's behavior. So once you can control your own emotions, the world is beautiful. The world is awesome. And that's what I meant the other day when I said, if you can't be happy with nothing, everything will not solve it for you. You have to be, happiness is an internal switch. It's not a circumstantial response. Yeah, there are circumstances that can give you brief glimmers of happiness, but internal satisfaction and loving who you are comes from hard work, doing the bit, whatever that bit is, and you can lose it. You can become lazy for a while. You can overwork yourself and need deep rest, which presents itself as depression. And so then you have a negative self-esteem situation, and you have to get through that in order to raise your self-esteem again. You can do it. You're the only person who can. So that's what I want to say. You're capable of a lot more than you give yourself credit for. So yeah, please check out Legend of Ashley Fox and Legacy of a Mad Scientist. You will not be disappointed. And yeah, see you guys tomorrow. Bye.